Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We often talk here about the grand narratives of law, the strategy, the big arguments, the rulings. But before
Mm.
any of that complex litigation can even begin, there's this fundamental, almost invisible step. It's absolutely foundational to due process, the service of documents.
That's right. Service of process is, it's the necessary administrative infrastructure for the entire judicial system. It's that moment the paperwork leaves the courthouse and it has to successfully find a specific person or a business in a specific place. And when when you really look at how that gets done, you realize it's a technical field all its own. It requires this specialized, hyper-local knowledge.
So that's what we're doing today, a deep dive into that very specialty. We're analyzing sources related to Lafayette Process Servers LLC. They operate as Metairie Process Servers. And we're focusing on their operations, the services they offer, and really how they connect the legal system to the local geography of the West Bank and Louisiana.
Right. And our mission for you, the listener, is to really get a handle on the efficiency and the crucial role of that local expertise. You have to have it for timely and compliant service. We're using Westwego Louisiana as our case study. It's just the perfect microcosm. It shows how much granular local geography really impacts the speed of justice.
Which brings us to our big question for today. When the legal process leaves the highly controlled environment of the courthouse and it hits the streets, what specific, almost proprietary knowledge is required to get the job done right? Let's unpack it. We can start right at the beginning, the moment service is initiated.
Let's jump in.
So, service of process. At its core, it's the formal delivery of court documents, things like summonses, complaints, subpoenas. And the clients, they're pretty diverse, right? Big law firms, small businesses, even just individuals.
Exactly. And while the consequences of the action are profound, the initiation part is designed to be really convenient now. The sources all point to this secure document upload portal. It's accessible 24/7. That digital gateway is where everything starts.
Okay, walk us through that digital gateway, because that seems like the very first strategic step in a chain of events that could lead to a major legal action.
It is, and they've made it intentionally simple. It's a 3-step process. First, the client just selects and uploads the documents they need served. You can upload multiple files at once. Step 2, you enter the required information: the name of the person or the entity, the address for service, and then any special instructions.
And those special instructions, I'd imagine, are critical.
Oh, absolutely. They can be crucial. Things like access is difficult, or best time to try is early morning, or even known behaviors of the person you're trying to serve.
Okay, so far it sounds like very efficient data entry. But once you hit submit, there's a really important financial checkpoint. It dictates when and if resources are actually deployed. So you get a confirmation, but what controls the actual start of the attempts?
That's where the administrative rigor comes in. It's a necessary barrier, really. After the client gets that upload confirmation, a prepaid invoice is sent right away by email. And the server will not proceed, no travel, no time, no surveillance, until that invoice is paid.
That makes a lot of sense from a business perspective. But I have to ask, doesn't requiring prepayment maybe create a barrier? Especially if an attorney needs really urgent, maybe complex service that could take days of work.
Well, it creates a barrier to non-committed orders, which you have to do when you're deploying these kinds of resources. The firm is basically guaranteeing that when the clock starts, they are fully committed, but they're also reimbursed for the high cost of what they do. It's a mechanism that forces the client to confirm their priority and their budget before the server's car even leaves the lot.
So the takeaway here is this really sharp contrast. You've got the absolute ease of a 247 digital upload. You could literally start a lawsuit from your phone. But the second that invoice is paid, the ease ends, and the serious boots-on-the-ground action begins.
It's the perfect blend, really. Modern tech initiating traditional legal enforcement.
And speaking of those boots on the ground, let's get specific on geography. Our focus is Westwego, Louisiana. It's a community with a really unique history, a unique layout on the West Bank in Jefferson Parish. And the firm serves that whole area: Westwego, Bridge City, Marrero, the whole parish.
And this is where law and logistics just critically intersect. The sources make a really strong case that general knowledge of the New Orleans metro area just isn't enough. A server who doesn't know Westwego's specific neighborhoods, and we're talking about everything from these tightly packed historic residential areas to the huge industrial zones by the river, they're just going to waste time and money.
And wasted time in this business is delayed justice. It's increased cost for the client.
Exactly. The local advantage is tied directly to the success rate. For instance, the server team knows the 7094 zip code inside and out. That familiarity lets them instantly know the difference between, say, a small historic cottage on a confusing little side street versus a massive commercial entity down by the river docks.
So the expert isn't wasting time plugging coordinates into a GPS. They're driving there from memory, from experience.
That is their proprietary data advantage. That local knowledge means they can anticipate difficulty, they know the typical business hours, they understand the subtle access rules for different neighborhoods, and all that leads to faster service and, this is crucial, a much higher success rate, even on the really difficult serve that Westwego presents. They leverage their main office in Metairie, but they have this dedicated infrastructure that covers the entire West Bank all the way to the 24th Judicial District Court every single day.
That local advantage has to extend right into the courthouse itself then. Because the service might happen in Westwego, but all the associated paperwork has to be filed and processed in Gretna. That's the courthouse nexus.
It is. All the significant legal actions that start in Westwego are processed at the courthouses in Gretna. So a professional server has to be an expert not just at delivery, but at the specific filing and research procedures for those two key locations.
And what are those two judicial centers? The ones that handle legal matters for the West Bank.
Okay, so the primary one is the 24th Judicial District Court, the 24th JDC. That's the main court for Jefferson Parish, and it's located at 200 Derbigny Street in Gretna. Then you also have the second parish court of Jefferson. It handles smaller civil matters, and it's at 100 Huey P. Long Avenue. Any filing expert has to be intimately familiar with the nuances of both.
Okay, so let's get into the weeds here. You mentioned the firm acts as a kind of sophisticated court agent. What are some of those requirements at the 24th JDC that a non-expert would just completely miss? The things that justify needing a professional court runner?
That's a great question because court compliance often boils down to these frustratingly specific rules. For example, the 24th JDC might require a specific paperweight or unique civil cover sheets that have to be filled out perfectly and sourced locally, or even specific binding requirements like using a heavy backing and certain prong fasteners for filings with multiple pages. A general courier service wouldn't know that. If your papers are filed wrong, wrong margins, wrong cover sheet, they just get rejected, and that delays the entire legal timeline.
So the courthouse runner and filing services aren't just about dropping off a package. It's clerical quality control. They make sure the physical paperwork complies with the 24th GDC's strict rules, and they're running to both courts every day for filings, retrievals, research. They're the bridge between the streets of Westwego and the very regulated environment of the Gretna clerk's office.
Precisely. They are mitigating the risk of rejection, and that is often the biggest administrative hurdle for attorneys.
That kind of comprehensive support really makes them an all-in-one legal support partner for the whole parish. Let's look at how they structure the actual service attempts. I see 3 strategic levels of speed.
The service tiers are a strategic decision for the client. Routine service is the most budget-friendly option. Attempts are made within 3 to 5 business days. Then you have rush service. That guarantees attempts within 1 to 2 days. And for really urgent matters, say an imminent deadline on a statute of limitations, they offer same-day service.
Why would an attorney pick routine service if rush or same day is just faster? Is it purely about controlling cost, or is there a strategic reason to space out the attempts?
It's overwhelmingly about cost versus urgency. Routine service lets the server integrate the Westwego attempts into their broader daily routes, and that keeps the price down. Rush service requires dedicating a resource specifically to that one task immediately. If the deadline isn't pressing, the attorney goes with routine. But if there's a critical deadline, like for a court hearing or an eviction, that premium for rush or same day, it becomes non-negotiable.
You mentioned evictions. That's a niche where deadlines are so tight, and serving that notice to vacate properly is often the first point of contention in a lawsuit.
Absolutely. They provide specialized eviction support, making sure the 5-day notices to vacate and the actual eviction lawsuits are served promptly and correctly, all in compliance with Louisiana law. And on top of that, they handle Louisiana registered agent services, so they manage the official receipt of legal papers for corporations operating in the state.
Okay, now we get to the most difficult and I'd say most dramatic part of the job. The hard-to-find defendant, the person who is actively trying to evade getting that piece of paper. You can't just leave it in a mailbox if the target is gone or in hiding.
This is where you have a total shift in resources and methodology. If the service address is bad, the first step is expert skip tracing. And this isn't a Google search. This is professional location services using specialized proprietary databases to find current addresses.
And what if they've skipped count? left Jefferson Parish entirely. Can they still be found?
The sources indicate the tracing services are robust enough to locate current addresses even if the person has moved out of the parish. The goal is to make sure the legal action doesn't stall just because someone moved. You provide a viable new address for service.
But the real high-stakes scenario is when the target is local, they know papers are coming, and they are actively avoiding being served. That's where the human element, observation, the commitment of time, that all becomes essential.
That's the process server stakeout service. This is where the digital world just completely gives way to physical dedication. It's a commitment of surveillance and waiting, sometimes for hours, designed specifically to serve those evasive individuals.
How is that managed from a resource standpoint? Is it billed hourly? And what are the legal boundaries for what a server can do during surveillance?
It's positioned as a premium service. It's often billed hourly or in pre-agreed blocks of time, which reflects the high labor cost of just sitting and observing. And while they're not law enforcement, their actions are governed by strict privacy laws. They have to operate in public spaces, they can't trespass or do anything that would be considered harassment. The difference maker here is just patience, combined with that local knowledge of where someone might show up, a local shop, a specific route they take, a neighborhood hangout in Westwego.
It sounds like a blend of detective work and extreme customer service. And to round out their toolkit, I see they also offer a couple of crucial logistical services.
Absolutely. They offer mobile notary services, so a notary will travel directly to the client's home or office. And for secure, time-critical transport of documents, they run a secure legal courier service. They even offer specialized document binding services to make sure filings meet all the exacting standards of the 24th JDC before they even leave the attorney's office.
This all points to a real depth of experience. The sources mention their 5-star rating and that the founder, Scott Frank, has over 20 years in Louisiana legal support. They even have their own industry podcast, Paper Trails. That history really reinforces that this isn't an entry-level job. It requires decades of acquired local knowledge.
It solidifies the idea that what looks like a simple delivery job is actually a highly technical, high-stakes logistical puzzle, and it's all driven by that specialized local knowledge.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's circle back to the core takeaway. Service of process in a place like Westwego requires this constant, synchronized balance of precision, promptness, and critical local knowledge. You have to know the specific flow of the 70094 zip code, just as well as, the filing margin requirements of the 24th JDC.
That is critical knowledge. And before we finish, we do have to deliver the necessary legal disclaimer from the source material. The information we've discussed today is strictly for educational purposes only. It is not in any way a substitute for legal advice.
That context is vital. Every legal situation is unique. If you have been served with legal papers, or if you think you might be, you absolutely must consult immediately with a qualified attorney to discuss your rights and your options. The people we're talking about are professional process servers. They're highly skilled administrative agents, but they are not lawyers.
Right. And with that necessary context, let's leave you with a final thought that sort of synthesizes this incredible blend of tech and human effort. We've looked at the seamless 247 integration of high-tech document uploads paired with the very low-tech but indispensable human effort of skip tracing and a physical stakeout.
It's the ultimate legal paradox, really.
In an increasingly digital world where we all expect instant data and satellite tracking is the ultimate difference maker in our legal system. The server who is simply willing to wait, to observe, and to physically navigate the hyper-specific, challenging realities of a single zip code in Westwego. What does the continued necessity of a physical stakeout really reveal about the limits of digital tracking in these crucial, human-dependent legal processes?
A question that proves that even the most technical, regulated parts of the law, true local knowledge and the commitment of a dedicated human agent still reigns supreme. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the anatomy of service of process on the West Bank.
Use this specialized knowledge base in your own research, and we'll catch you next time.